How about now? Can y'all hear me now? Let's see. It says waiting for Bo. Well, I'm here. We're back. Okay. Hang on. I will be right back. Y'all enjoy the fire. Okay, so I'm back in theory. If y'all can still hear me, I walked away for 20 seconds, and that's what killed it last time. So, all right. And your chicken is almost done. All right, let's see what we've got here. Yeah, sorry for the crash there, everybody. But this is probably about the right time. So I was going to hang out for a little bit and answer questions. But ideally, this will give you all a place to kind of hang out and chat. Thank you, Eric Moyer. Someone needs to break out the marshmallows. Yeah, be nice. How long am I hanging out for? I was on stream for about an hour, and then I'm not really sure what happened, but it stopped, and now we're back. So, thank you, Anna. Let's see, what can we tell you about homemade masks? Might as well, yeah, we'll talk about that again. We don't really know. There's been a whole bunch of studies about it and people trying to figure out different stuff. From what I've seen, it looks like the best stuff is a mix of various fabrics and layered vacuum bags, HEPA filters, and car filters, air filters seem to have been those that were most effective. None are as effective as the commercial stuff, but also anything is better than nothing at this point. Let's see. Thank you, Helen. Plant a garden now. Yeah, I would co-sign that. That's probably a good idea, but I think that's a good idea at all points in time. I don't really think that we're. Hopefully, I don't think we're. I hope we're not headed to the end of the world here. Well, hello from San Antonio. Looks like Punk Sai is in here moderating. Thank you. Port Orange, Florida. Planting a garden after 11 p.m. may raise questions. Maybe, but you know what? Nobody's going to come and ask. You know, everybody's going to stay at home. Are we back? I hope so. Otherwise, I feel really weird standing out here in the yard talking to myself. Have I made pineapple vinegar? I have not. Thoughts on an M9 for your first? Well, you. So it's a good sidearm. There are a lot of people that will tell you that it's outdated, that it's old, and blah blah blah. But it's not bad. There's nothing really wrong with it, and people will talk about the stress fractures uh, that were uncovered at 50,000 rounds or whatever it was. Odds are you're probably not going to put that many rounds through it in that short of a period of time. There are better weapons out there without a doubt, but it's not a bad one. And if you haven't the opportunity to get one at a good price, why not? Thank you. Conversations from the Fringe. Rest in peace to Shirley Douglas. First family of Canadian Universals passed away today. When you talk to yourself, you do it for expert advice. Thank you, Arash. I'm an IT guy. I keep my clients connected to their work and keep them going. I guess we are essential workforce. My customers say you keep business alive. What's your recommendation on mask reuse since I can't buy any more? I like the alcohol and then drying in a paper bag thing myself, but again, it's all guesswork. I would try to find if you don't have facial hair or you're willing to shave, I would try to find a half face respirator that has P100 filters. That's going to be the best thing that's kind of available at the moment, but even those are getting pretty scarce. Thank you, Leone Rose. Last night I saw DIY masks made with HEPA filters and vacuum cleaner bags. Yeah, that's one of the ones that like people are leaning towards as being really effective. But again, it's all guesswork. But at the same time, anything is better than nothing at this point. So, oh, it is just me. Thank you. An old model 1911 will always be my choice. Yeah, I know a lot of people that feel that way. And there's it's funny because I found out doing a video one time that apparently white people recommend that to black people a lot. And the guy actually asked, he's like, what, did they want us outgunned? It only holds 8 shots. I had to, I'm like, yeah, it's 8 shots, but it's 8 shots of 45. That should be enough for most. Let's see. Full face snorkel conversions. Don't know anything about those. Haven't even looked. Yeah, thank you, essential workers, for going out there and keeping us rolling as much as you can. It really is. It's doing more than you might think. What can we learn from this pandemic? That's a good question. This is something that when it's over, we will hot wash. We will go through the whole thing, and because there's a lot as far as having food in your home, having water in your home, having cleaning supplies, stuff like this. A lot of this stuff doesn't actually go bad. You can buy stuff that has a really long shelf life, and then we don't have to worry about panic buying. Do I have an opinion on General Strike 2020? Now, is this the Comrade Brittany General Strike, or is somebody actually trying to organize one? Um, I there are not many strikes that I have opposed in my day. So, and I think that hopefully people realize exactly how important the economy is to the powers that be and how much we control it. And that is a very strong, it's a very strong bargaining tool. Thank you, Toby. What size was the scarf in the prior video? If it's unfolded all the way, it's a perfect square, and if you unfold it all the way from my hip to the floor, it is the length of it. And I would kind of measure using that, because then the proportions would be right. What gun would I tell someone that's never had a gun and really doesn't want one but might get one not to get one? Uh, unless you're really going to put in the time to train with it, I advise not getting one. To be honest, I advise going with a less than lethal alternative. But for first time buyers, I did a video, and it's called Buying a Gun Out of Fear of Political Violence. And it takes you through the steps of selecting one for you. And those rules, that advice, it applies to any situation, not just the one covered there. Thank you, Marianne Wright. Conversions from the fringe. Thank you. Is a onesie now socially acceptable to wear at the grocery store? I thought it always was. Thank you, Jay Graham. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to balance well-paying jobs and ethical jobs. Yeah. At times I hate having strong morals for that. Do you have any tips for dealing with that? I don't know, man. You're probably asking the wrong person on this one. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure I'm the right person to give advice on that. Best wishes to your wife. She says thank you. She's actually right over here nearby. Until we have a vaccine for this, life can't get back to normal. Yes and no. Eventually, there will be enough people who have caught it and survived that in and of itself is kind of a vaccine in theory, assuming that we do develop some immunity to it as we move along. But we'll see. I mean, I would be careful. I'd be careful until you're vaccinated myself. How do I feel about raising kids in these times? It's a challenge. It's one more thing, but it's life. You know, this is what it is, and we kind of have to just have to move on with it. They say the immunity wears over time. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to defer to them. They're gonna know a whole lot more than me. Will a guillotine manufacturer be profitable in a post-corona economy? I don't know if it'll be profitable or not, but I imagine a lot of people will be looking for one. Uh, Trump threatened to sue the virus. Oh, fantastic. What do I think the future of school is and how it will change education? Um, I would imagine that distance learning is going to become a whole lot more common. I think it's going to happen a lot more, and I can't say that I'm opposed to it. Everything else in the world today is a 24-hour thing. I don't know why we are confining and using a system that hasn't evolved with the rest of the times. I am not opposed to the idea of this being the norm as far as education. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to go along with that, as far as we would have to have a living wage where the a single parent working could support a family because they won't be going off to a central school for that time period. I mean, it would have to change a lot, but I don't necessarily see them as bad changes. Um, but it's just something we're gonna have to evolve with. We're gonna have to be very adaptable. It isn't the strongest of the species that survives; it's the most adaptable. Uh, yeah, I've seen. Oh, sorry. Okay, how much of the world have you seen, and where's your favorite place? I've seen a lot of it. um, I like this Laverta. It's a little area in Puerto Rico. I had a whole lot of fun there. That was a place that I would definitely go back to. Um, I like most places that I've been. They're all unique in some way, and they're all fun in some way. Thank you, Bad Pirate Monkey. And I will read that story. Let's see. COVID-19 sucks. Fact. Uh, what's going on? We are just hanging out, doing a live stream by a campfire, giving people a little bit of community. Do I have a video explaining my background? I think the one that delves into the stuff that people actually want to know about is, let's talk about 100,000 subscribers. When I got to 100,000 subscribers, I answered a whole bunch of questions from people. That will probably give insight into uh, what you probably want to know. The fire is burning my eyes. The smoke is burning my eyes. No joke. Oh, good night.
Good night.
Are you going to say good night?
I did.
I mean, to them, they need to hear you.
Good night, internet people.
What are you doing to keep busy in quarantine? I've got a ton of kids and a YouTube channel. That alone keeps me pretty busy. And then I every once in a while get suggestions for stuff to do around the house too. How do you feel about wearing a mask every time you leave your home? I suggest you do it. I suggest you do it. Right now, I think it's probably really important. Anything we can do to cut down on transmission eventually flattens out the curve. So if you can do it, I would do it. Thank you, Mike. Of what you know about it, what do you think of Canada's healthcare system? It doesn't seem to be the failure that ours is. I could say that. Um, I've never used it, so I don't have an internal view of the system. But just comparatively, it seems like it seems all right. How is Florida dealing with it? Depends on the area. South Florida is getting hammered. They did not take the they didn't follow the lead of other places, and now they're paying the price for it. Up here, we tend to social distance in general because most people, when they think of Florida, they think of South Florida, big cities packed together. North Florida is really lower Alabama. So up here, we're pretty far apart as it is. I mean, as you notice, you don't see any lights behind the fire. Um, so it varies area to area. The good thing for South Florida is that there is an aging population to begin with, so there's a lot of hospital beds, which may prove really useful. I did not read Tommy Lee's letter to the POTUS. How many kids? 4 in the house. 4, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. What are my thoughts on anime? I'm not sure I have any. um, I don't. I'm not a big watcher, so I don't really know. Let's see. Thank you, Hips. I was asked by friends in a reporting group to report price gouging on eBay masks for respirators, etc. Does this help healthcare providers at all? I don't know. That's kind of why I didn't. That's why I didn't disclose a whole bunch of people, because I ran across a bunch. There may be situations out there where people literally, it's either pay that or die, and it's wrong. But if that alternative isn't there, they don't have the option. Um, I know that there's been a lot of enforcement. I know that the feds are cracking down on it pretty hard. In fact, the guy in Alaska that got hit was somebody I tried to buy from, explaining that it was for a hospital. Um, and I have to admit that I did laugh that karma caught up with him. Thank you, James Dorn. How do we eventually combat incredibly dumb people who have been taught that they are incredibly smart? I wish I had an answer to that. That is Nobel Peace Prize worthy right there. Uh, Thank you, Don. Compare the response in New York, California, Washington. California got out ahead of it, and people are healthier there, so they're probably going to have a flatter curve. I'm actually not really sure what Washington did, to be honest. Um, I've been watching Florida and I've been watching New York simply because that's going to be a good example of what happens everywhere else. And they tried a bunch of half measures there, and we'll see how it turns out. It's hard to say until afterward. Florida dropped the ball completely as a state. Counties in Florida are very empowered, and a lot of counties took action. Um, and then Florida, being Florida, is full of Florida man. So you had half the community that was thinking of Michael in situations like that and was just like, well, I'll stay home anyway. And then the other half are the people you see surfing during the hurricane. And they were out just doing what they normally do. So I'm curious what's going to happen here too, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of guessing. We can look at the models all we want, but we don't have widespread testing enough to really be able to guess. I mean, that's what the models are. They're guesses in a way. Do I think that future leaders and politicians will learn a valuable lesson from this, or will they use it as a tool to take more power from the public? Yes to both. I think they'll do both. I would hope that the public learns a valuable lesson from this. When did I realize this thing was serious? Just curious. The time I made the first video saying, hey, we need to start paying attention to this. The first one I made was like, look, we've got these agencies. They know what they're doing. Let them do their job. Chill out. Somewhere between that video and the next one, I had kind of picked up on the fact that those agencies weren't being allowed to do their jobs. But when I became concerned, I made a video. I don't know the exact date. Thank you, Leonce. I'm being real quiet, but I'm scrolling back through and reading all these comments. What part of Florida do I live in? The Panhandle. Alachua County acted quickly. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's Alachua County, and they have Shands there. Shands is a major hospital here in Florida, and that's based in Gainesville. And Alachua County was one of the first ones that was like, hey, we need to pay attention to this. And they also have the University of Florida there that I would imagine that played into it. They have access to and listen to experts that those in Tallahassee may not have met with. Conversations from the fringe. Thank you. Trump, incompetent or criminal? Why not both? I think it's a combination of the two. I think that there's a lot of grifting going on. There's a lot of him trying to get his fingers in everybody's pie. And I also think he's not really that bright. There's a level there's a level of corruption that at some point is actually good because it's helpful. If you have somebody that's really on the ball, and then you have some who are corrupt and inept, and that's just a danger to everybody. Thank you, Toby. See, my thoughts on the Navy captain. He was reassigned pending pending a probe. I have a feeling that the probe will determine that he was justified. Captains are in command of their ship. Captains are in command of their ship, and I think that the Secretary of Navy was made a mistake. I do not think it was a wise decision to try to countermand or punish a decision to port. You know, that captain is invested with the authority to scuttle that ship if necessary. I don't think that putting it into port is that big of a deal. What should we prepare for this upcoming week? Stay home. Prepare to stay home. That's what I would do. Um, it hit different areas at different times, so it's going to be rolling. I think that what happens in New York is going to scare a lot of people. New York won't be every city. It won't be like that everywhere. The numbers won't be as high because the numbers aren't as high as New York. But I do think it's going to get bad. I thought it was going to hit last week. I did that video. It's going to be a bad day. That was the day I thought that we were going to start seeing 1,000 body days. And then it was going to escalate from there. We started seeing 1,000 body days this week. And I think that it's going to go up. So I would just prepare to stay home and just hang out. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Franny. What type of plan do you think will allow us to recover economically from this crisis? If it was me, I would be doing larger checks to people and smaller checks to corporations because the money that goes to people will inevitably flow up. The money that goes to corporations necessarily will not flow down. Thank you, Skatari. Thank you, Jacob. We're going to cross 10,000 tonight, probably. That wouldn't surprise me. But we're going to hit a point where it becomes exponential growth. And I think that's when people are really going to start to get scared. And I can't blame them. I would be, if I was in a major city, I would be worried. I would. I'm a little concerned here because we're so far out and so far removed. There were a lot of people that up until the state was finally like, stay at home, they weren't really taking it seriously. Thank you, Dawn. I've tried. Please address the 5G thing. Okay, so 5G exists in a little less than 50 countries. COVID's in 200. The two aren't linked. As far as the radiation is concerned, it's the wrong kind of radiation, number one. Number two, radiation doesn't just get to a point and then stop. One of the theories is that it is hurting, it's damaging your cells. But the reality is radiation is based on dose. The longer you're exposed to it, the worse it would be. It doesn't just stop at lowering your immunity. It would keep going. I don't have a lot of worry about 5G in and of itself. I don't think it would be any more risky than air quality. Thank you, Quickie Mart. Yeah, I mean that's apt. That's a good analogy right there. Dallas passed 1,000 infections today. I would imagine they have more than that. That's just confirmed. Florida unemployment is completely broken. That is a fact. I got a friend. I was talking to today who said 6 hours is what it took to get filed. And then basically all that was told to him was that he had an open thing and to come back in 6 days and try it again. So thank you, PED expert. What about the coming mental health? Yeah, that's going to be a big one. The one thing about this is that it's exposing a lot of the weaknesses in our system that have been there the whole time. Only now, instead of just affecting those that don't have means, it's going to affect everybody. I would hope that that would be a catalyst for change and there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. But I don't know. I mean, is COVID linked to men shaving their beard? Yes, absolutely. Radiation doesn't make a virus, right? I mean, that is not it's not something I'm concerned about. It's really not. Thank you, Toby. Make sure Miss Bo takes some time for self-care. She has the last 2 days. The last 2 days she's been at home. She is going back into the fight tomorrow. So I have 5G in the bank. Does that count? More than most people. Now, I did have somebody come up with on Twitter, came up with a unique way to respond to the 5G tower thing. 5G towers aren't causing it. They're actually the cure, and they want to keep it for themselves. And I have learned with flat Earth people that sometimes it is better to try to just take it to the next level. You know, when people talk to me about flat Earth, I will flat out tell them, this guy still believes we live on Earth. Get woke, man. And then they stop the conversation and move away from you because they're like, man, this guy's crazy. Thank you, Toby Leonard, if I haven't said that. Thank you, Kelly Horton. How do I feel about what they did to the Navy captain? I don't think that is... Man, I'm going to have to do a video on that one. A lot of people are asking about that. The captain has the authority on that ship. I think that reassigning him for a probe was a mistake, and I think that the probe will clear him. So, got some critters out there. Oh, yeah. I'm sure there are. What, is there something crawling behind me? I mean, we are. It would not surprise me if an animal appeared. Is it possible for an entire nation to win the Darwin Award? Yes. Yes, it is. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, though. Just a super snake. You know, that's funny, except I found one in my bathroom, I don't know, a month or two ago. So, man, come on. It's Florida. What would I say to a person who thinks that we should let this run through without socially isolating? I would tell them that they need to go volunteer at an ER. or an ICU with no PPE. There are some people that you will not be able to reach. Do I think Trump will ever stand for what he did? Probably not. I think the government is going to want to downplay its negligence in this as much as possible. So, hi, Counterfly. Make sure that you don't have a cup with a straw in it near the nurse's station. You know, Jacob is going to come by any minute, and that's what they're going to be concerned with. Tell them to volunteer at the local morgue. Yeah, there's that too. Do you think we've hit peak infections? I think we may be near there as far as reality, but I don't think the numbers have caught up yet. There's a whole bunch of people that haven't been tested that are currently right at this exact moment infected. So I think the peak number of infections has happened, but the positives, I think we're still in for a climb there. See here. Low-level microwaves can cook a hot pocket. You can cook an Eggo by putting it between your thighs. So there's that. Thank you, Josh. Do I have on Tony version? I don't. I haven't been paying attention to anything. I'll be honest, the kids have been running me ragged. I have no idea what's going on anywhere outside of the news and the house. I have not. This is actually my recreation right now. Is hanging out by this fire with you guys, which is working out pretty well. Thank you, Carpe Pax. Thank you, PED expert. Thomas Massey's comments. Be more specific. What exactly do you want me to comment on here? What did he say? I'm not sure that I. With some of these people, they're like, "Can you comment on the last thing that they said?" And I'm like, "Man, that could be anything. I don't know." Why do Americans have an attitude towards Canadians? Is it the 1812 thing? That's one thing that we can actually take a moment and talk about on a more serious and in-depth level. The one thing that everybody can take away from this is what is going to happen during climate change. What the U.S. did here, as far as seizing shipments and stuff like that, that's to be expected. And the way that the wealthy are able to isolate themselves and get tests and everybody else isn't, that's what it's going to be like. The money's going to buy their way out of it. We've got to use our voice on that because it's a very real threat, just like this one, warned about for decades and ignored. And then when it happens, everybody's surprised. The difference is it's going to be this is fixable. The climate change may not be. Thank you, Teresa. what non-citizens should plan for. Thank you, Garudas. Um, I don't have a clue, to be honest. Um, I don't think. I think at the moment that this is slowing down enforcement, and I think that in the weirdest way possible, I think that institutional racism is actually helping a few number of people because a lot of our immigration officials don't want to interact with foreigners right now. So I think it's actually helping them at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be long term though. Thank you, Mackenzie. Um, I assume you heard about Boris Johnson in the hospital. I did not hear that. I knew he was sick, but did not know hospitalized. Thank you, Chuckster. Sewing masks and listening to you. Thank you for sewing masks. People are going to need them. Really should have brought marshmallows and a chair. And Nickelback. We're still I'm assuming that goes back to why we have an attitude towards Canada. Look, Canada has apologized for Nickelback on numerous occasions. They don't need to apologize again. Let's see. Thank you, Josh. Sadly, I think this is the only the peak for New York. Yeah. Well, there's peak infections, then there's peak hospitalizations, and then there's peak toll. I think hopefully if everybody stays home, we're at peak infections for everybody. Now, if they stay home, hospitalization and toll, that will take a couple weeks for some areas. The longer they put it off, the longer it's going to be. Dark on Face, not angry at 1812 anymore. Nickelback. Now, are they that bad, really? I mean, they catch a lot of flack. Thank you, Jacob. What are my favorite movies? I'm a lot like books with that one. I watch most. I'm not a. Let's see. Recent ones that I really liked. I don't know about movies, but I really liked the show You on Netflix. That was a level. that was something new. I liked that. It was good storytelling as well. Thank you, Andres. Here in Cuba, we have a good medication for the virus, interferon alpha B. If you guys lift the embargo, our government can give you the medication for your citizens. Yeah. Right now, I would not count on. I think Trump would rather keep that embargo in place and let all of us die, to be honest. Let's see. Thank you, Moon. Rush makes up for Nickelback. Let's see. I've fallen way behind here. Thank you, James Johnson. $10 from an essential and seemingly expendable grocery worker. Man, isn't that the truth? Never understood the hatred towards Nickelback myself. Yeah, I mean, they're not like the greatest, but I don't know why everybody hates them so much. I mean, Nickelback was scientifically proven to be the worst band ever. Well, there we go. Science tells us. I'm on Norwegian cop shows now. Oh, man. Thank you, Manatee. Conversations from the Fringe. It's not Nickelback. We apologize for Bieber. Trump's killing his voters. Yeah, there's that. So the demographic being hardest hit is also the demographic most in favor of Trump. There is that. I mean, that is a demographic fact. That is something that is occurring. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know how you want to look at that, but that is something that is happening. Thank you, Jacob. I work for Domino's delivering pizzas. What's your opinion on them saying we are essential workers and not giving us gloves, mask, or hazard pay? I'm not sure that having a pizza delivered is essential. And wait, your food service, don't you have gloves already? Like, didn't y'all already have stocks? That doesn't even make sense. Or they just don't want to pay for them, right? Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. How about that? That's my answer. It doesn't surprise me. Before I get a lawsuit from Domino's. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Leons. I'll pronounce it right this time. Pizza is essential. Leonard Cohen was a gift. Fact. See, there you go. You can't, there is that. Who are Nickelback? So Nickelback is a band from Canada. Was incredibly popular in the United States for a while, and then all of a sudden everybody hated them. I don't. I mean, like, it's not really my cup of tea, all of it, but it's not that bad. I mean, I've definitely heard worse music in my life. Thanks, grocery dudes and girls from an RN. You guys are awesome. Just thought I'd read that one out loud. Thank you, Mackenzie Drake. Why do I feel like I already assume you heard about Boris Johnson? That one stayed up there a long time. Thank you, Jay Graham. Why do so many leftists oppose the CIA and FBI? So during the Red Scare, the FBI actively and openly targeted left-leaning people, even people that were just center-right that kind of leaned left. So there's animosity there. The CIA does its best to advance American interests. American interest is nationalistic by nature. It is inherently nationalistic to say that. Most leftist thought is about people, not countries. So there's animosity there. Then there are a lot of people who dislike the CIA because they're not incredibly competent. Thank you, Phantom Alpha. Hey, Bo, can you offer some advice? A friend of mine lives in Manhattan with her 80-year-old grandma and her older brother. They all have COVID. I do not have advice for that. That's horrible. That is horrible. I would try to stay positive and, you know, understand that statistically they'll make it. You stand a good chance of it. But that's horrible. Thank you, Lenore. Thank you, Moon. My wife was sewing masks. They got upset with the patterns at the hospital from the shirts and asked for plain colors. New Orleans. Yeah, I imagine that's going to change in the next week. The attitude may change. There are a lot of hospital administrators that are making poor decisions that don't have to do with the staff. We're seeing this mainly in large cities, more so than out in rural areas, because hospital administrators in rural areas are still part of the community. They're still people that are linked to the community, so they try to look out for them. Thank you, Cornelius, from a member of a hospital custodial staff. Well, thank you, because it again, we focus on nurses and doctors, but there are a whole lot of people making those hospitals run. Thank you, Dinosaurs Twice. Thank you, Fanuel Amea. Butchered that one, I'm sure, too. Yeah. People ask for a book recommendation. There's a good one. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That is one I would suggest reading. Oh, Nathan Lopez. Thank you. Book recommendations. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Start there. Will this help Trump 2020? I don't think so. I don't think that this is something he's going to be able to brand his way out of. The situation is what it is. And I don't think that any amount of talk is going to help. You can't actually distort reality like that. Sewing masks, drinking wine, listening. Sounds like a good night. Do Americans consider Creed as their Nickelback? Probably. Thank you, Susan. Off topic, your opinion of Tom Steyer and his organization, Next Gen America, and the election. I have not dug into that organization enough to have a hard opinion on it. I am reflexively suspicious of wealthy people entering into politics. Most times it just seems like they're trying to cut out the middleman, but I don't know. That's just my own bias. Thank you, Nicholas Hazlett. Thank you, Andres. For the person that asked about the CIA, please Google Cubana Flight 455 and you will have your answer. We hate the CIA here in Cuba. Thank you, Jacob. Creed is way worse than Nickelback. And I'd rather listen to Trump talk about abortion than Nickelback. Man. Creed or Three Doors Down. And this is brutal. Do you think Trump sold the national stockpile? Do I suspect that? Yes. Yeah. I wouldn't say that as fact. I don't have the evidence to back it up. But if I had the time and was still that motivated to do investigative work like that, I would be digging into it, because I have a feeling we're going to find out that there was a quid pro quo involved with that, as far as who's getting it, who's distributing it, the contracts, all of that. I don't know that it was sold, but he definitely grifted, would be my guess. And again, I don't have proof. It's a suspicion. We might be able to unite the entire country around this Nickelback Creed thing. I'm just saying. How dare you? Y'all need some doo-wop and Motown in your lives. Fact. Sounds like Bo is going through a bag of winter troubles. I'm not using a mic. I'm just using the I'm using the mic in the laptop right now. So if I sound a little weird, that's why. Wish I was still doing. There's a part of me that wishes I was still doing investigative stuff, but I have to admit, I think I'm more useful here. Because you hit a point of doing that after a while where nobody will talk to you. I was working in Ohio for a while after the John Crawford thing and a couple of other shootings up there. And it got to the point where I couldn't do anything. I got pulled over one night and the cop walks up, he gets to the window and he's like, "Oh, it's you." And then turned around and walked off just because he didn't want to deal with me. And there, you hit a point where you can't do that kind of work anymore, where everybody knows you and you're just kind of stuck. I mean, I can go through paperwork now, but that's about it. I can't actually get out there in the field. Thank you, Mona. Your thoughts on this November election? Do you believe they will delay? And do you think the country will go to mail ballots? I hope the country goes to mail ballots. I would be surprised if they delayed. I think the backlash from that would be pretty intense, and I don't think the Republican Party is going to want to own that. How are you obtaining your groceries? I'm one of those people that always stays stocked up because of hurricanes and stuff like that. We make a few trips to get perishable stuff. But since I said in a video that I was staying at home, I've left the house twice in that entire time. Thank you, Jacob. All right, Bo, last super chat. So I just wanted to say thank you for using your voice and encouraging others to do the same. Thank you. You know who wanted to give everyone $1,000 a month before coronavirus? Yeah. Dirt Flyer, you were an investigative journalist? Yeah, I was. I was for a time. Yeah, that's actually, for those that don't know, that's how this channel started. For a very long time, I hid my accent. I used a non-regional accent, and I was a journalist. One night I was drinking with some other journalists, and it slipped out, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a redneck. You should do videos showcasing that." And I did, and played it up, you know, sitting on a tractor and dip and all of that stuff, and played the accent up a whole lot. And it was a joke with a little bit of social commentary. And then as it progressed, I had to walk back the accent to my normal accent rather than, well, hey y'all, how's it going? Laying it on real thick. And then slowly this took over everything that I was doing. And it was the right time for it to happen. I got real lucky in the way everything worked out. Thank you, Nick Joe. Check on friends as well from a paramedic. Love you all. Thank you, Brian. This is for Miss Bo. I will pass that along. I will make sure she knows. Bo, do you feel your governor is doing a good job? No, not at all. We're controlling things in here in Florida on a county level. The state government has been an utter disaster. No, I do not feel that our governor is doing a good job. I think Florida will hold itself together based on the county. I think we'll do all right, but it will be the county level that did it, not the governor. Carpe Packs. I remember those early videos. I followed you from Facebook. Yeah. And those older videos of me really playing it up and, you know, those are still out there. I never wanted to get rid of them because it was never supposed to be a secret. It was never supposed to be, any like, it wasn't supposed to evolve the way it is. I just, you know, I took a nickname, a real nickname that people called me, and ran with it, and it blew up. I chalk it up to viewers being able to see the authenticity rather than, I think that's why it succeeded. And something to do with the contrast between, when you hear this accent, you expect me to say one thing, and then, you know, what I say doesn't always match up with the stereotype. So I think that has something to do with it too. But, and you should stream on Twitch every now and then. That is our next area that we're going. That's the next platform we're getting on. You know, we actually just got on to Twitter for real and Instagram. We're going to move to Twitch soon, I think, as soon as I can figure it out. I have people willing to help me. But we'll see how much is Florida population is going to die off from this. I don't know. That's horrible. That was asphyxiating. Feel like it. This is Justin. Yeah. Okay, that's the other part. Justin is my given name. That's my real name. And that's what I wrote under. Bo is a nickname. So is Mick. The fact that I wasn't trying to hide it should be evidenced by the fact that the very first video on Facebook starts off with, well, howdy there, internet people. Justin said I'd be more effective on my own channel. It was never supposed to be like a secret. It was supposed to be a joke for my core readership, and it blew up to people who had no idea that I even wrote. But yeah, like on my plate carrier, it has my real last name on it, you know, stuff like that. But Let's see. You're supposed to throw your problems into the fire. Yes. Okay. Yeah. My given name is Justin, but very few people actually call me that. More people call me Bo or Mick. Dude, man, thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for the positive shenanigans. Shout out from your Discord peeps. Thank you, Ernestine, Leah. I'm sure I messed that up. I apologize. Thank you for helping me stay sane. You mean your last name isn't the fifth column? Yeah. All right. Are you a traveling man? I'm not, but I know what that question means. Let's see. I hope you know those early TFC videos were really good too. Yeah, I like them, but again, it's I feel more comfortable like this than doing the non-regional accent and the whiteboard and being more condescending than I am really. Mick, as in Irish American, yeah, that's where it originated. Wow, thank you, Heather. Heather Rose is Radio Flyer. What do you think of Amazon's tacit complicity in the spread of the virus through their refusal to protect their workers and by reasonable extension, the general public? The virus survived 24 hours on cardboard and 3 days on plastic. I definitely understand. I know there's a lot of people getting groceries and necessities through Amazon, and I think that if people take precautions and understand that it does survive and wait or sanitize their shipments, that would be better than them going to a grocery store. It's really easy for me to criticize Amazon, so I have to be careful because I have issues with their involvement with the immigration stuff. So I have to be careful not to let my own biases come over on that one. I don't. They have horrible labor practices. They have a whole lot of horrible stuff. I don't know that them continuing their shipments is the worst thing that they've done. There's plenty of cause to have an issue with Amazon. I think that maybe they should print on their boxes or attach something explaining the timeline, the life cycle. There could be things that would help. But thank you, Green Lady. Do you anticipate major violence as the U.S. goes into depression and thousands of people lose their homes? I would hope that the powers that be understand that is exactly what would happen if relief is not given quickly, and it would impact them more than anybody else because the rage would be directed. So I would hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, if relief isn't given, yes, that is what I think would happen. I am hopeful that it isn't, though. In a few sentences, what is your takeaway message for us? Build a strong community, and it doesn't matter what the central government says. Learn to rely on each other rather than a government, and understand that it's going to take a long time to get to the ideal. We just have to keep working that direction. We don't have to win today, but we have to fight every day. How does Bo know words like tacit? I'm beginning to suspect he isn't a right winger. Yeah, when I say I'm not a Democrat, people immediately assume that I'm like a woke Republican. Like, no, that's not it. Thank you, Tara. What do you think about Trump cutting the EPA and allowing, manufacturing that's running right now during this crisis to decide whether or not their runoff is necessary or not? Yeah, it's another handout to big business. It's another play against the environment because he doesn't understand the impacts of it, and understanding that all of this contributes to climate change, and climate change contributes to warmer weather and greater insect travel, which contributes to pandemics. Nothing he does really surprises me anymore. Half of it is arrogance and half of it is incompetence. So thank you, dude, man. What keeps you motivated? You guys, honestly. I actually feel like I'm doing some good. I feel like that I'm helping people stay sane, which is a comment that gets said a lot. And I get messages from people from time to time where they say, this is what I believed and this is what I believe now, and you played a part in that. That's important to me, and it keeps me motivated because it is a long road. It's one that I don't foresee. I don't think we'll reach the end of it while I'm still alive. So the fact that I can play a part in getting us there makes me happy. Thank you, Sally, who is saying good night, everyone. Please remind everyone it's planting season. It is planting season. I put in some more because I thought I was going to be on the road and wasn't going to be able to handle, have much time to do this. I put in a bunch of like berry bushes into my raised beds and stuff, planning on removing them. And now I got all the time in the world. But it is planting season. So it might be a good time to start thinking about what you're going to do. Maybe order some seeds. I would definitely, I would do it this year. If you've ever thought about it, this is the year to do it. Find stuff in your growing zone. It may not be planting season where you are. Some of you still have snow on the ground, but it's definitely planting season down here. Do I believe climate change is an existential threat? Yes. Do I think the 10-year deadline is legitimate? The modeling is a lot like the modeling that we're seeing for the curves. It's dependent on a lot of ifs, thens. So I'm reluctant to put a time frame on it. I would just say we need to act soon, like real soon. Libertarian question mark. If you mean that in the European sense, you're getting warmer. If you mean that in the American sense, think even crazier. Thank you, Amy B. Conversations from the fringe. Go to midnight snack. Yeah, I'm gonna have to soon. The battery's gonna die on the laptop. Thank you, Brett Wallander. Hello, I'm from Wisconsin. Immunocompromised. Dude quit working, hoping to get unemployment. Life is nuts. Yes, it is. Thank you, Eat the Rich. Thank you, Stanky Juju. I've already started planting and got more on the way. Thank you, Chuckster. What is your opinion of First Amendment auditors? It's a lot like Second Amendment auditors. It's a good idea in theory. Some of the practices that I've seen doing it not great in execution sometimes. I think the overwhelming majority of people who are doing that are doing it for the right reasons in the right way. But those that get the most notice are typically doing something that would intentionally to disrupt. And in that way, it's a lot like Second Amendment audits. In a lot of areas, you have a Second Amendment, a state constitutional right to carry. And that's all fine and good until you do it right after a major incident and you're causing panic. Rights don't come without responsibilities. And that's one of those things. I think people should be careful with what they're doing. But I Second Amendment audits and First Amendment audits, as I have seen them, most people are doing them for the right reasons in the right way. However, those end up not being the ones that go viral. If I just touched my eye, will I die? Probably not. I mean, maybe. We're living in uncertain times. Being poor is only a shock to the newly poor. Let's see. Thank you, Sobek. You have always seemed very worldly and informed. Did you pick that up as a time as a contractor, military, just a student of history? All of that, yeah. All of that's true. I've always loved history, like ever since I was little. And I always traveled with my parents when I was little. Then I was a contractor. And I let's just say I varied in legitimacy while I was doing that. Then I had a number of other experiences along the way. I was a journalist. I guess I still am a journalist. And all of that led me to where I am. Travel is the thing that I think is most important and the one thing we can't do right now. Let's see. Thank you, Lee. Savchenko. I'm sure I butchered that. I planted a tree and raspberry bushes on my birthday after watching your Anyone Can Plant a Garden video. Thank you. Well, I can't wait to see the raspberries. I have a few in my yard. One of them is huge. It's mutant. I can't wait to see what it produces this year. But yeah, those types of things, bushes like that, trees, they are low maintenance. Once you get them started, they do all the work for you. So if you're just starting out, that may be something to start with. ADA audits are becoming a thing. I can see that as becoming necessary. Are you ever going to use your real voice on this channel? This actually is. Okay, so because everybody heard me first with the non-regional accent that sounds like this, everybody assumes that this is my real voice. It's not. This is affected. This is. Journalists often use a non-regional accent so they can be understood everywhere. The voice that everybody who has heard me for years, that knew me before this channel, that's actually me trying to hide my accent, not the other way around. Were you always left leaning? No, I was not. I was always anti-authoritarian. I was always on the downside of the spectrum, but I didn't always lean left. I was never far right, but there was a time when I thought that I believed, here I'm going to go ahead and say it, I believed in the hidden hand of the market doing all of that stuff. I was wrong. I can admit that. Thank you, Jason Vogel. Are we on the brink of a new era in our country's history? I sure hope so. Thank you, Carpe Pax. If anyone's working for non-essential businesses staying open, please stop. I opted out of working for my non-essential employer because flattening the curve is more important. Do the right thing. That is a message from Carpe Pax. You may need to lay low for a while. Yeah, I've heard that before. So you were libertarian pretty much. More anti-authoritarian than libertarian. So if you've never taken a political compass test, everybody's familiar with left and right. There's also authoritarian, anti-authoritarian, or maybe it's authoritarian and libertarian is how it's labeled here in the States. But you definitely have another line, an up and down line aside from left and right. What I have found is those that are all the way on the bottom, for the most part, there are some exceptions, and you'll see them brought up in the chat here in a second. For the most part, they can all get along. And I've always been on that end of things. And to me, I think that's a little bit more important than left and right on some levels, not on all, but you should do a stream of yourself taking the political compass test. Well, that'd be entertaining. It's always the same thing. I'm always way, way, way down at the bottom and lean just to the left is where I end up. I loved your scarf in your early video. I'm a scarf kind of girl. Yeah. So the one that I was wearing was made in Palestine. It was given to me by a reader. And that's what's up with the colors on it and everything. Those are available. That one is really, really nice. Most of them they're not that soft. I mean, you guys can't tell this by looking at it. But those are useful for a whole lot of things as far as any kind of survival situation, not just the ones that we're dealing with now. They can be used as bandages. They can be used as a whole lot of stuff. I recommend having them. I have them in all of my bags. Thank you, Joshua. You do good work. My girl gave up the right-wing ideology with your help. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I like hearing that. Yes, this is a quite literal fireside chat. I did some of these before, and they're actually some of my favorite videos. If you go back through on the page, you can find them. Haven't done one in a while. Anytime is a terrible time to stop smoking. Looks Kurdish. I have some Kurdish ones too. In fact, I've worn one in a video. They are, so you have the yellow, green, and red in the Kurdish one, and it's green, red, and black and white in the Palestinian one. They're very closely related, and if you're buying those that are made by people there, a lot of times they can look identical. Let's see, what is that scarf called? So we had somebody that corrected me because I had heard it referred to as a kafaya and a schmog. Um, said that kafaya wasn't actually a correct term for it, but that was only slang in the U.S. So if you're looking to order one, you would Google it SHEMAGH, and you'll be able to find them. They're not expensive for good ones. Like good ones are like $9, unless you're looking for one specifically made in the area that it represents, because all of the colors mean something. In the authentic ones, there are a lot of them that are mass produced. They are widely used among members of a certain ideology because they are red and black and orange and black and yellow and black, and that color code that often gets brought up. How many people do you think you've converted? I have no idea. One a day is enough for me. Can't have a fire here in California. Yeah, that's one of the good things about living here in Florida, and especially out in the rural parts of it. It's we really don't have a lot of burn bans here. It's too wet. Converted what? I'm assuming they mean either converted to an anti-authoritarian ideology or just got out of the right wing, of the far right most times. Is it considered cultural appropriation to wear one? The one I would say suggests that the one that I was wearing or that I had on tonight is not one. I've never worn that in public except to an event that I was invited to, and I was expressing solidarity with the people there. The Kurdish one is one that I wear in public, but that was also a gift that I feel that it's okay for me to wear that one. I would not wear an ethnic one, one that's tied to any specific ethnicity, without a tie to it. I don't think that in the current climate, most people are going to care. I think they're going to understand. Contrary to popular belief, most Muslims that I have met have been extremely understanding people, especially in a situation like this. I don't think that you would have any issues. But they do make a whole bunch of them that are not tied to any specific ethnicity. Um, so, I mean, if possible, I would look for one of those. Do you like to cook over your fire? Not this one, but I do like to cook over an open fire sometimes. This is more for meditation, my version of it, I guess. Um, YouTube knows it's fire. Oh, no one will trust the Americans for a long time. Probably not. We've sold out a lot of people. Just watched YouTube videos about a boa wrangler in Florida. Yeah, we get snakes up here, but not too bad. I mean, let me rephrase that. We don't get dangerous snakes up here that often. We have a lot of snakes. There's actually there's a 5-foot one that lives out in the front yard, but keeps keeps the bad ones away. So he just kind of hangs out. Eventually, I'm going to name him. Bo, I disagree with about 90% of your views. However, I respect your right to express your opinions. I respect your ability to articulate your ideas and thoughts. Well, thank you. Black racers, yeah, tons of them up here. Don't worry, the gators eat the snakes. Yeah, sometimes. Um, Thank you, Toby. Converting people to think for themselves is what you do. What do you do with the wood ash from your fire? Um, it gets buried. It gets buried. It's so. Let's see. Do I have time before I might be able to get through this before the battery dies. I have an inipi, which, well, it's actually still flat from the hurricane, but there's a native experience, let's just call it that, a sweat lodge. And it's something I do pretty often, and this is the fire that would be used for that. So this gets treated a little bit differently than one that I would just cook over. So not I know that may sound kind of weird, but it is what it is. Thank you, Anna. When did you get into prepping and what motivated you? How old were you when you began? What have you taught your family about it? I don't really like the term prepping. It has a lot of connotations that I don't like being associated with, but I've always been somebody who liked to be prepared. I was a Boy Scout, and it's something that at this point I do it without really thinking about it. It's just kind of a part of who I am. My kids, my oldest son could probably survive in the woods for a month. But I try to make it an experience that's fun rather than, if you don't learn this one day when, the black helicopters come, I try to make it a fun thing, not a paranoia thing. Thank you, Steve. Are preppers what we used to call survivalists? Yes. There's a slight difference. Preppers tend to focus on gathering stuff and sheltering in place. Survivalists tend to focus on skills, which is what I'm probably closer to that, in the fact that I'd like to do as much as I can with as little as possible. But I've also got a bunch of kids, and that requires preparation. So. Can tyranny be voted out of office? Depends on how far we let it get. Does YouTube demonetize your videos if they contain the word coronavirus? I don't know. Because of the way I just talk in general, a lot of times the buzzword doesn't get used. But I will tell you that the video I did today showing how to do the mask, for some reason that one got a yellow icon. I have no idea why. I don't think I actually said that word in that either. Heather Rose is the radio flyer. Can you can you repost the will check daily if things go sideways? Yeah. Time for a YouTube revolution. Okay, so this is going to die. So rather than just having it abruptly end, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. And so I hope y'all had fun. We'll try to do this again at some point during this. Y'all have a good night. It's just a thought.